Hello, everyone. It is March 25th, 2021, and this is the weekly Backdrop Developer Meeting. We get together every week to talk about the Backdrop project and development tasks that are before us. We kick things off with little introductions every week. I'm Nate Lampton. I'm core committer in Oakland, California. Let's go to Tim.
Hi, I'm Tim Erickson. I am in Deerwood, Minnesota. That's all I have today. Greg.
I'm Greg, usually in Australia, but now joining from Greece. Haven't joined the last one or two weekly meetings, so trying to catch up. I've been through all the discussions in Zulip, but still trying to catch up with pull requests and issues in the queue. Excited about the release that we just had, and passing on to Jen.
I am Jen Lampton, joining from Oakland, California, where I am uncomfortably cold today in spite of it looking beautiful outside. And I am excited about all of the backshop work I have going on, even though it's making my eye twitch. Justin.
Eye twitching? I'm Justin Christopherson. I'm in Denver, Colorado. I just help out with some infrastructure things here and there. I think I'm the last one, right?
And then Nate.
Nate started.
Yeah.
Oh, Nate, you're muted.
Thanks. I'll go ahead and do the contributed project updates. We have 3 new contrib projects that were released this past week. Background Images Formatter, UTF-8 MB4 Helper, and Restrict Abusive Words. So those are 3 new contrib projects that have come up in the last week. Let's see, website related things. This gets into the next section, which is the product update, but the only real item of note on the websites is that all sites have been updated to 1.18.2, which is the new version of Backdrop that we released just yesterday. So that's very exciting. 1.18.2 included a large number of bug fixes. The release notes detail everything that was in there. Some exciting things that we've been focusing on as of late include accessibility improvements. And 1.18.2 includes 2 accessibility improvements. One is that the layouts user interface is now navigatable, and you can move blocks around using the keyboard, which is pretty cool. So if you give elements focus within the block interface, you can use the arrow keys to move blocks up and down within a region, or left and right to move them across regions. And it works really well. We also added a new API for making announcements to screen readers. So 4985 is that issue, and that has also been merged and is in 1.18.2. That makes it so that anywhere you have an event that occurs that you would like to inform a screen reader what it is that has just happened, such as the blocks user interface, that having that keyboard support, we now have this API available to do that. However, we have not actually implemented those 2 features together yet. So there's a follow-up issue to actually make it so that the blocks UI, which is now navigatable with the keyboard, actually announces to the screen reader that a change has occurred. Because right now when you move a block around, it works via the keyboard, and we have the API available to announce it, but we're not actually announcing anything yet. We went ahead and proceeded with the 2 pieces in 1.18.2 and left that other issue as follow-up. Probably we will need to have a I hope not so long discussion about what it is that we should actually be saying when those things occur, right? We need to determine the terminology of those announcements. Also in 1.18.2, we fixed one of the major bugs that we've been bringing up in these meetings every week, which is an issue with CKEditor. The maximize button, once you clicked it, it would disable the save button on the form, which could cause content loss. So that issue, 4933, has been fixed in 1.18.2. There's other two issues if you'd like to read up on them. Keyboard support for layouts is issue 4941, and ARIA announcements is issue 4985. That's it for 1.18.2. Having just made that release, the next bug fix release will be 1.18.3. So all issues that were in the 1.18.2 milestone got bumped into 1.18.3. And some issues that we're still working through include PHP 8 support, issue 4772. This continues to need review, is where this has been sitting for a little while now. And this issue regarding menu links that have been translated, issue 4798, is an issue that currently still needs tests. It has a pull request that solves the problem, has since February, but it needs test coverage. Let's see, the 1.18.3 milestone has a large number of issues still, 77 open issues. So there's still definitely a lot of other items that are of priority that we can make progress on.
I would like to mention two related issues. One is 5007, which is about the description field in taxonomy terms, which did not allow images to be uploaded. You can only select from the library. So we have a working PR there. And then an issue that was sort of like is a follow-up and related to that is 5016, so 5016, which we discovered that when you add images to the description field in taxonomy terms and the block content field in custom blocks, these images do not get added in the managed files sort of like view, and they don't get a usage count. They are marked as temporary, so they don't go away after 6 hours. This issue was addressed like a few releases back, but still.
I recall something about that I thought that we started adding file usage. I thought that's what we did, but I guess that's still an issue. So
I think
5016 is about that. Interesting. Okay.
We are marking them as permanent, but they don't get any usage count. And they don't show up. They don't show up in the view at all. So
yeah, I think that we had a thing with custom blocks. So usage count has to be for a piece of content. And so with blocks, it was tricky because blocks aren't content, they're configuration. And so we don't really have the API available to register usage for a block right now. We do have the API available to register usage for a taxonomy term though. So that's an oversight, but blocks, yeah, we have a larger problem that we can't even register a usage with a block at all because it's not content.
So Indigo Zella suggested that we should split those issues. Then should I make it two separate things, one for descriptions and one for content blocks? Because it's the same issue, but it could be different underlying causes.
Yeah, I would actually be in favor of using 5007, the one that the insert image dialog does not work, because right now there isn't a problem with taxonomy terms don't allow you to insert an image currently. But if we did enable that, it would have the temporary problem that the file will get deleted after 6 hours. So we can't enable the ability to insert images if the images are going to get deleted for taxonomy terms. So I think that we should solve both the enable the ability to insert and also register file usages all in 5007 and combine that issue all together.
You can insert images now. It's just you cannot upload directly.
Right.
And the pull request is just one line, actually adding a property to the that text field. Editor uploads true, and it fixes the issue. So that itself adds a tab in the upload dialog, in the image insert dialog to be able to upload images. So I wouldn't, if that is an actual fix and it doesn't suffer from the file deletion like the data loss, I wouldn't want to delay it in order to fix the other thing.
I think that's the problem, is that it does suffer from the deleting files issue. Yeah, because we have the fix that we have in blocks, where we would normally register a file usage, we just mark the file permanent because we don't have the ability to configure a usage for a block. So we've already addressed it, but specifically for blocks, that the files are marked permanent. But we have not addressed it at all for taxonomy terms. So an image will be uploaded through the modal, but then will get deleted after 6 hours.
I'll add a note in the oh, I think
What about users also?
User profiles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or is it handled by fields?
So yeah, so user profiles don't have a description field
Okay.
on them. And so yeah, you have to add a field and then it's handled by field module.
Yeah, the only field that is added is, I think, a signature field and what you call it, user images, which is a special case. It's not an actual field, I think.
I don't even know if we have signatures in Backdrop.
We have them, but we disabled them. We have them, and sorry, we had images on by default, and we made it off by default. So both of these settings are added in there's 2 checkboxes which do this thing in the user profile in the same place.
All right. Yeah, so there's lots of other issues in 118.3. Do you guys have any other ones that you'd like to bring up? Okay. All right. Well, that brings us to 119. 119 will be the next minor version of Backdrop. It will come out May 15th, 2021. Here as we approach the end of March, we're getting into that period of time where we'll try really hard to complete the items that we have started. So the first item that we have here in the feature queue is adding exposed file name filter to the media library dialog, issue 3293. Still continues to be a request for help on this issue. I don't think there's been any recent updates on it. It has some troubling technical problems with it still. So good developer is requested for that issue. Let's see, next up is advanced caching, adding support for cache tags and cache max age, issue 4127. Joseph Flatt is the advocate for this issue. Herbdool gave it a code review and provided some feedback there, but we still have yet to actually do testing on it. This is, I mean, other people doing testing on it, so this is still pending both more code reviews and more user testing on issue 4127. Next up is add field has value visibility condition, issue 4728. Jen Lampton is the advocate for this one. I don't believe there are any updates this week from the queue. Okay. Adding support for relationships to layout contexts, issue 2134. Doc Wilmot is the advocate for this one. He re-rolled this pull request about 10 days ago, and it's looking great. All tests are passing. He made changes as suggested. He did some cleaning up here and there, and now this issue needs review. So that's great. Moving along there. Merging the different update pages into a single page listing all updates for modules, themes, and layouts, issue 2714. Gregory is the advocate for this issue.
We still have no updates, although Indigozella has been chasing me for weeks now to just get back on the issue. I keep promising that, but yeah, work and real life have gotten in the way. I promised to get it. I'm very confident that it will get in for the next 119 release, but yeah, no updates.
Awesome. Okay. Let's see. Is there's a pull request for that one, right?
Yes, there is. So the actual bit of changing the merging the paths and the pages is solved. The only problem that we have now is that we get an error with the dashboard block. And the reason why I said I'm confident is because at the end of the day, if I don't manage to sort that out very soon, I might split it out into a separate issue.
That's right. I remember that now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, something that might affect your work there, since you're probably moving menu paths around, is this next issue, which is add support for wildcards and deprecated path redirects, issue 2833. This was a follow-up issue that stemmed from another 119 issue that BW Panda did. We've had this issue with deprecated paths that we redirect them from one location to a new location, but we've never had support for wildcards in the placeholder paths. And issue 2833 fixes that. However, that means that everywhere that we have had deprecated redirects, there's now a new way of doing deprecated redirects. The old way still works, but for consistency, there's a new way available that also handles wildcards. And issue 2833 documents that old and new approach, and there is already a changelog record that's published to the doc site that shows what the old and what the new looks like there.
I saw that the other day. Thanks for that. I'll need to update my pull request for that.
Yep, because if you didn't, I would go in and say this needs to
You
use
need
the
to
new
do it.
approach
Yeah.
now instead of the old one. But it's real simple. It works exactly the same as the old approach. It's just that now it handles wildcards. It's the new approach is a wrapper around the old approach. So it ultimately is pretty much the same thing.
Cool.
Okay, let's see. And prevent URLs or email addresses from turning into links, issue 1926. This one was also merged. BW Panda was advocate for this one. And there is now just a real simple capability when you have the automatic link filter turned on that you can add a class around any section of content that says no class, or sorry, no link, and it will disable automatic linking within that section.
When it comes to the UI, like, can you achieve that by pressing a button, or do you actually have to manually add those classes?
There is not any default UI for doing that. However, if you wanted to, you could add a CKEditor style for no link, and then like select a section of text and then say no link on it, and it would accomplish that. But yeah, there's no user interface for it. However, it does say in the filter tips, if you have automatic linking turned on, it has a little note there saying if you add no link to a class wrapper or to a wrapper, it will disable that
The
filter.
reason why I'm asking is because I recall, I hope I'm not confusing text editors now, but I recall that there was an icon that had the link and like a broken link thing.
Oh
which-
yeah,
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll check that myself.
yeah,
I'll
I
see.
could see that being confusing, like the unlink button in CKEditor, possibly disabling automatic links. Yeah, I can't even recall exactly what the setup is out of the box, but I've
Yeah.
had a slight preference for disabling auto linking everywhere on my sites, because if you have CKEditor, it auto links stuff as you type it. So if it's linked in CKEditor, then it's linked in the output because it's literally typed or generated a link tag on the
So, yeah.
input rather than on output.
My point was that if someone just gets accidental, undesirable links, and then they edit the node again, they could have this button where they select the link, click that button adds the no link tag so that it never gets added as a link again. That's where I was getting at. But
Yeah. And it could also be confusing that the use of that filter with CKEditor is also just a little strange because you don't see a link on the input, but then one shows up on the output. It's a little confusing.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's just a minor bit of functionality it is completed. That now means that BW Panda has completed 2 issues in one minor release, which I think is the first time that's ever happened, that an advocate has completed multiple issues in a single release. And yeah,
and he's
that's very exciting.
time for another one then.
Yeah, he's primed for another one, and we don't know which one that will be. Maybe something really great would happen, and he would pick up one of the other ones that we've already started. All right, that's it for the 119 update. Do you guys have anything else you guys would like to mention around 119 or any progress in the queue? Okay. Well, then next up, we've got initiatives. We give little updates every week on larger scale projects that might span multiple releases. 2 initiatives that are going on right now are documentation, which BW Panda is the lead on. Documentation mostly has to do with improving the new docs website, docs.backdropcms.org. We did just have a engaging conversation right before this meeting that was not broadcast, unfortunately, regarding other ways that documentation could be improved, largely through video content. Tim, is there anything that kind of came out of that discussion that it would be worth repeating?
Sure. So I'll just mention that Sarvashri, who regularly attends our outreach meetings, has been advocating for a long time for more videos, instructional videos, and is really looking for developers to help make those. So if you're interested in a developer that knows Backdrop and interested in making videos, reach out to us. But I think Sarvashri and I are going to go ahead and try to start doing some stuff to get the ball rolling, and then maybe do some more outreach later. But we talked today about, just in case anybody has feedback on this, about using the leveraging the Drupal user guide for Drupal 8 as a model, rather than recreating something completely from scratch. And so people have feedback on whether that's a good or bad idea, let us know. Basically starting with that as a template and modifying it and then adding some videos. That's all.
Yeah, and I have a question. I think that what I'm about to ask, I think that last time it was sitting with Jen. When we moved when we wanted to merge the documentation that we have on the main site, like into that new site, but there was an issue where CK Editor was not being used by default on the content types that are existing in the API side, which is now the doc site. And so I was wondering where we are with that, if there's any update. Jen was not paying attention. No update. Sorry.
Yeah, I know that the doc site, since it just wrote a changelog on it, it has both has 2 text formats now, one that has CK Editor on it and one that does not. And my only take on that is that you should use the one that is most appropriate to the content that you're writing.
Yeah. And do we have any update on the actual content being migrated? Like,
the content's all there. BW Panda was working on reorganizing it, I think via book or menu or something to make it match his new outline.
yeah, because the main reason why I'm asking is like, which one is the source of truth? Like, if we are to add new documentation or improve the existing one, are we doing it in the doc side?
I don't know. You'll have to ask BW Panda. Right now, content from the main website gets pulled over every 12 hours. So if anything is added or updated on the live site, it'll end up over there. But that also means that any changes he's making, like if he changes the title of a page, it'll get overwritten 12 hours later. And so at some point, we're going to want to turn that off because he wants to be able to improve things as well as just move them around. But to my understanding, the plan was to keep it set up how it is until it's in the right structure. And then once it's in the right structure, we'll cut over and use it on the doc site and then start change everything on the doc site.
Okay.
So I just don't know where things are in that timeline.
Okay, cool.
All right. Next up is the telemetry initiative, collecting information about the way Backdrop sites are actually being used and then reporting that back to backdropcms.org. Tim is the initiative lead. No update this week is what is in the agenda. Thanks, Tim.
Yep.
Is there
Well,
anything that you need help with, Tim? Anything that you're blocked with, or it's just moving parts?
We talked about this a few weeks ago. I haven't looked at it for long enough that I need to just kind of go back and go through. I mean, anybody could step in there and try to figure out what the next steps are. I believe we have some decisions to make about opt-in, opt-out, but until somebody defines exactly what those decisions are, we can't make them. Also, there is some more code work that has to be done, but again, I think having somebody, and I keep intending to do it and not getting to it, somebody specifically say, "Hey, this is exactly what we need to do," would be helpful. So no, yeah, unless you want to jump in and just try to help summarize and figure out where we are at, then we have to wait till somebody does that.
Yeah, I think well, this is actually a little bit confusing because the issue that we have right now, it links off to the forum from the agenda. Yeah, the meta issue is issue 285. Wow, it's an old one. But that gives a pretty good summary of exactly where we are right now, and it's available for testing. But you have to set up both a client and a server currently. But there are full instructions on how to test it in that issue 285.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it for the backdrop update. We've got an item here in the general discussion that Peter brought up, requesting better, less US-centric handling of time changes and scheduled meetings. I created an issue 779 in the backdropcms.org issue queue, which is kind of where we put a lot of things that maybe aren't exactly related to the website, but we've been having a problem as of late that the United States changed its daylight savings time clocks, but the rest of the world did not, and that resulted in some confusion there. So I think I don't really have the full scope of this issue, though. Gregory or Tim, could one of you give a better summary?
I'm happy to do it, sure. So the problem is a couple-fold. For some people in the Northern Hemisphere, their clocks don't change at the same time that ours do in the US. So for those of us in the US, it's pretty easy to know when the next meeting is, even after the clock change. If you're, say, in Europe where the clocks change at a different point, this affects you differently. Like, first of all, the meetings change twice. First, they change an hour off and then they change an hour back. But if you live in the Southern Hemisphere, it's even worse because it changes twice, but it changes twice in the same direction. So for Peter, the meetings will eventually shift by 2 hours from our time. So which for him is pretty dramatic. Plus it's 2 shifts that he has to go through, right? At one point, our daylight savings time switches and the meeting time switches for him. And then several weeks or a month later, his daylight savings kicks in and the times change again. And so the proposal is to have a universal time, which would be, for example, UTC, instead of basing the meeting times off of US time, to base them off UTC. And then they're always the same time all year in UTC. And for places that don't have daylight savings time, they'll never change, they'll always stay the same. For places that do have daylight savings time, they will switch. The meeting will actually change for everyone, but it'll change for everyone equally and only once, right? Not twice for some people.
And in the way they're accustomed to adapting for time based on where they live.
Right. Yeah. The point at which it changes for them will be the time that everything else changes. Right now, it changes in US daylight savings time. Well, if you live in Germany or Australia where they didn't switch the clocks, they have no clue that daylight savings time happened in the US. So
yeah.
Anyways.
This makes sense.
Yeah. So
why didn't we think of this earlier?
Nobody has disagreed with this so far. It's just a question of how to make this decision. And I don't know if we just sort of assume that there's enough unanimity and make it, because we could do this And there is a proposal for exactly what UCTC time we use, which I don't know if it meshes with the current meeting. I think it actually would push this meeting back an hour for us. It would make it an hour later, I think, is the current proposal. But I'm not sure. Somebody please fact check me.
Where is the current proposed time printed, written?
The
It's
agenda.
it's in the
Agenda.
issue, and there's a link where you can just click on the link and it'll show you what time the meeting would be in your time zone. So
Yeah, 82779.
I'm totally like confused right now. So I'm trying to get to there, but it might take a minute. If somebody beats me, just speak up.
Yeah, so it looks like it for California time anyway, it would push everything 1 hour later. For Arizona time, it would probably be the same.
Right. For any U.S. state that has daylight savings time, it will shift it 1 hour later. For
But
us
only-
immediately.
Only in the summer, right?
Well, right. We'll switch back to this time in the winter, is my understanding.
So the question
Mhm.
is that preferable, or would we rather have it be on this time now and we shift 1 hour earlier in the winter? Like which time is that?
Right.
Yeah.
Because it happens now. Anyways, you mean.
I think that's a legitimate question, but that's just a matter of, it's a tough one. Other than, I think it was Peter, I think Peter suggested this time, and I would tend to defer to him because he's in the worst possible
Scenario.
time zone.
Yeah.
So I think that he probably optimized his proposal for what would help him, which I think is totally legit given
How hard it is for him.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I would sort of just go with his idea. But
Okay.
one could equally argue that we should stick with our current time and then shift
Yeah.
the next.
I'm
time.
happy with either one. Moving forward, why don't we confirm with him that this time is actually slightly better than the other time and not the other way around?
Yeah.
And as long as that's the case, we stick with the current proposal and adjust starting next week.
Sure.
Is that too soon?
Well,
it might be too soon.
2 weeks from now?
yeah, let's do
Good
that.
start
That way
date.
we have at least a week to be sure that we've actually confirmed this.
Yeah.
Otherwise, my fear is we don't confirm it till the day before next week.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So in theory, we changed the time in 2 weeks, but we're going to get a confirmation from Peter first as soon as possible. And if anybody else has any strong opinions, speak now, because otherwise we're going to make the move, right?
Well, that time affects me when I'm in Australia, but it hasn't, due to COVID, it hasn't been done. It's not going to be done for another 6 months at least. But the question would be, would that make Peter be able to attend the meetings? Because even if after the time change, he still cannot attend, then.
Well, I think from my understanding, first of all, he again suggested the time, and I don't think he's by any means it's ideal for him, but I think that starting an hour later would be better for him. He pretty much said that for the next 6 months he won't participate at all if we stay at the current time. So I think pushing an hour later would be helpful to him because it's morning for him right now.
Even from where I am, I work Aussie 9 to 5 Aussie time,
Right.
At least Melbourne and Sydney time. Previously, like before the hour change, I would go do the 2 meetings and then straight start work. Now I do the 2 meetings, there's 1 hour gap, and then I start work, which I understand why Peter mentioned that, because then he would have to wake up really early in the morning and then have a gap.
Right. Yeah. This will be an hour later in the morning for him. Plus, it'll only shift by an hour, not 2. So.
Yep, makes sense.
Okay. Well, I think that's all that we have for the agenda today. There's a little after talk discussion as well, but do you guys have anything else you'd like to wrap up before we end the broadcast?
I don't want to talk about it now, but because I mean, just mention it so people are aware this discussion is happening if they're not. Nate, you just made a comment about how issues like this end up in the backrop.org issue queue. And we do have an active discussion about that right now. There is a proposal to find a better place to put discussions like this. And Again, I don't want to debate this right now at the moment. It's actually, there are multiple different proposals out there, and it is an opinionated discussion, but we should at least let people know what's happening. And it looks like it is issue number, which is at 778 in the backdrop.org issue queue. So if you have opinions on that.
That's where to put them.
That's where to put them.
The basic discussion is either a different repo, certainly a different repo that doesn't relate to the site tasks, but whether that repo lives in the same group, GitLab group, or a separate GitLab group. That's the main sort of like debate that we're having now. But we'll
I think so. It's the difference between having a back-ops/community, and community is just an example. I don't know exactly what it would be called. Or there's another proposal, which was we open up a whole new group of issue queues, which would be like backdrop-community instead of, and then have multiple repos there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're discussing.
I'm conscious of your time, Nate, but I've added a point there about the CK editor 4 thing, and I think that you're the most appropriate person to sort of like chime in with regards to that. I don't expect us to have a solution or come to an agreement now, but maybe we can bring it up next minute if we don't have enough time.
Yeah, that would be a fun discussion to have, because it is something that we need to get started on pretty soon, actually. Considering the end of life of CK Editor 4 is going to be an issue for us at some point.
Yeah, the demo that the Drupal guys organized was a discussion between the leads of the initiative on the Drupal end, and then there was a person from CK Editor. I watched that discussion there, and they seem to be accommodating as always, working side by side with Drupal. So there's a working contrib module at the moment, and I was wondering how easy that would be to be backported into Backdrop. But
Yeah, I don't have time right now because we're at the top of the hour, but it would be fun. So thanks for the heads up, and we'll add it to the agenda for next week. And yeah, in the meantime, there's an issue for that. Do you have the number handy by chance?
I'll find it. You don't have to keep it in, but yeah, let me. It's 4122.
4122.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's it for today. Thank you for joining, folks, today, and everyone that listens and watches these broadcasts afterwards. Thanks for sticking with us while we talk about scheduling and looking up issue numbers. So, all right. Thanks, everybody.
Someone said that we should stick to saying that do the backdrop.
Do the backdrop. Have a new catchphrase at the end. Think about that. Okay. All right.